How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard, and this is another edition of our segment surgery series, which involves us taking a segment of a show, not necessarily a match, but something that involves a promo or talking of some sort, and we review said segment and share our thoughts here. And this particular segment is from September 21st, 2007. Leonard, why don't you tell everybody what segment we are going to be looking at?
Sure. This was suggested to us by good friend of the show, Ronnie. It is the Teddy Long and Kristal Marshall wedding from Smackdown, of the date that Chad said. And we did talk about this briefly in our episode about wrestling weddings, but we're going to get a little more detailed into the segment itself this week. You can find the episode on the network, and you can find the wedding in 3 parts on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes all together. Commentary here is Michael Cole and JBL, and we are in Atlanta, Georgia, which comes up a few different times within the wedding. So we start out with all the guests coming out, and Reverend Bruce, who is said to be a good friend of Teddy Long. If you don't know him, he's a stand-up comedian and actor. Did various things on BET. Interestingly, Bruce's real last name is Church, and he's playing a reverend. So I don't know if he's an actual reverend. I didn't find that out. But Bruce is from Atlanta, and Teddy Long has been living in Atlanta. He's originally from Alabama, but of course, being with WCW, he moved to Atlanta, has lived in Atlanta for a long time, and they say that he and Bruce are friends. That's why he's doing this. Then everyone comes out who are sitting in chairs in front of the ring. My favorite part of the crowd shots is Jim Duggan has a black tie on his 2x4. Sergeant Slaughter has a sparkly headband on, and IRS is there for no reason.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, Mike Rotundo was working as an agent for them at the time. And I guess they're like, you can't just go out there as Mike Rotundo. You have to be IRS. You know?
Yeah. The randomness of the crowd is.
Yes, like there's the people who were on the show at the time you would expect, and then oddballs like Slaughter and Pat Patterson, Jerry Briscoe come out as well. So after everyone is seated, Hornswoggle comes out from underneath the ring with a chair and a phone book to sit on, and this is during the storyline where Hornswoggle is supposed to be Vince McMahon's illegitimate son, and he winds up staying next to Vince and Coach. So Long enters, followed by his son, Antoine, his real-life son, with Michelle McCool. Butch Reed is with Tori Wilson, and Ron Simmons is with Vicky Guerrero. And I love seeing Butch Reed.
So I'm going to interject here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The most memorable part of this wedding to me is the fact that Butch Reed is there, and although it's mentioned that it is Butch Reed, the fact that the commentators aren't making a bigger deal out of it, to me, is almost like, to JBL's credit, he does mention Doom.
Yeah.
But like, my God, it's Butch Reed. How long has it been since he's been on WWE TV? And they're just treating it like, good friend of Teddy Long's. Like, it's Butch Reed.
It's
like,
Butch Reed.
It's Doom.
Late 80s, 89 maybe. I'd have to look.
Like, it just, I mean,
yeah,
that part is great about this to me. Like the fact that I assume at some point Teddy Long was like, well, we got to have Butch Reed there if we're going to make this real. Like
if Ron Simmons is going to be part of this, we got to bring in Butch Reed.
That couldn't have been Vince's idea.
I would guess it was either Teddy or Ron. Teddy and Ron together probably said, hey, can we bring in Butch Reed?
Yeah.
Then Kristal comes out, and she does look stunning. She does look absolutely amazing, I think. Everybody here looks good. I like the fact that they took this up seriously. Like, everybody is dressed the way they should be, and
kind of like a la the Uncle Elmer and Joyce and the Paul Vachon and Ophelia weddings from old school WWF style, where they had the people on staff there to witness it. It wasn't like some of the other weddings that are famous, where it was just the ring and the audience. But yeah, this was like they tried to make this realistic, which we'll get there. But.
Yeah, up to a point. One thing to mention is Kristal falls while going up the steps, and Teddy comes and helps her up. That was a botch on her part. Like, when I was watching this, I was trying to remember, okay, is that something? Does that play into something? And it didn't. I think she just tripped because of the dress and the heels. So Then we get a performance from the band Jagged Edge. They do the song "Let's Get Married," which is a late night BET slow jam.
Straight out of the if you wanted to take a trip back to the aughts.
Yes.
Jagged Edge, folks. They were every Circuit City and Best Buy probably had their CDs from time to time. But
this song in particular got to 15 on the Hot 100 and number 1 the R&B charts.
Wow, you looked that up. Good for you, Leonard.
I did. It went double platinum because I wanted, and Jagged Edge is from Atlanta, so that's why they are here. So that makes sense. This band's from Atlanta. They have a song called "Let's Get Married." They're an R&B group, and not to say anything.
And you know what? Like Jagged Edge, in all things, all jokes aside, they were a decent group, and there are two types of venues or gigs that I think bands usually sound really bad in. SNL is one of them, which could be a topic on a later date, but in wrestling events, I think very rarely do musicians sound good in either of those types of situations. I thought Jagged Edge, the fact they were doing a slow R&B jam, sounded about as good as they could have in this case.
Yes, and I think the crowd was into it. I think everybody liked it, which was good. So now this is where the wheels start to fall off. Because soon as they get done, Jillian Hall comes out, and she calls the musical performance horrendous, and then she sings. Now, her gimmick at the time was that she is just an awful singer. If I remember correctly, I think this was a dig rumored to be a dig at Brooke Hogan, who was trying to launch a singing career. And of course,
really?
Yes, I remember hearing that because they were both blonde, big boobed, similar look. I know I heard that somewhere. Maybe a Bruce Pritchard podcast. At least that it was mentioned, and Bruce might have poo-pooed it, but I remember that being at least a rumor. Hall was jumped by two of the gals and hauled off. I believe it's Candice Michelle and Eve Torres.
Right.
It's been a while since I've had to know my, 07 ladies of SmackDown.
Such a random era.
Yes. So Bruce starts the ceremony, but Hornswoggle is messing with Coach outside. Vince stares him down, and a Hornswoggle chant breaks out. That's how bored they are. You're chanting for Hornswoggle. Bruce gets to the "Speak Now, Forever Hold Your Peace" part, and guess what? Triggers the Godfather, which I think is automatically standard at these weddings. That the Godfather is going to come out with some hoes. The brunette hoe in the front is my favorite of the women that he comes out this time. Godfather calls Kristal a beautiful young lady, and she corrects him that she's a woman. Which because lady, it seems fine. If he was called her a girl, I think that would make more sense to say, "Oh, I'm a woman."
Yeah, a lot of the females I've met, if you say lady or ma'am, that's a no-go these days.
That's a no-go these days. I'm too old.
No for me, dog.
I'm too old. I thought lady was fine. I was being nice, polite. You're a lady. But Godfather reminds Teddy of all the good times they used to have. He admits that, but he loves Kristal, wants to spend the rest of his life with her. So Godfather says he's not mad about that and has nothing but love, but he didn't come down to the dirty South to go home alone. So who wants to go with him? And Ron Simmons raises his hand, and Kristal yells at him, and he yells, "Damn!" He didn't ask if anybody else wants to take a ride on the Ho train, and all the guys that are watching get up and leave, including JBL. He leaves commentary and goes with him.
Except for Pat Patterson,
who keeps Jerry Briscoe in his seat with him.
That is my thoughts on this segment aside. That is one of the most subtle, funny things that WWE has ever done.
Yeah.
Because if you are just a casual fan, you would have no idea why Pat Patterson is sitting there.
Yeah.
But for anybody in the know, it makes it funny, and especially that he's getting Gerald Briscoe to stay there. That part I liked a lot.
Yes, that was nice. And it shows the friendship that he and Jerry, have. They were, the Stooges on there for a long time. But I like that as well. So Long goes through his vows, and he messes them up pretty bad. He's supposed to be repeating what Bruce says, and he's not even close. Kristal does her vows, and then Hornswoggle breaks away, runs up into the ring under Kristal's dress. Coach follows under the dress, and then Coach and Vince chase Hornswoggle to the back. So Coach and Hornswoggle and Vince didn't go off with the hose either. Probably because I don't know if they didn't think it would look proper for Vince to go on the hoe train. But today, anyway, finally, after all of that crap, they get to the I do's, and Teddy Long has a heart attack and falls into a coma.
Yeah.
The storyline never gets resolved. Right. I don't think it's ever brought up again when he comes back on air. And Kristal Marshall is let go shortly after this and winds up going to TNA, where she's paired with her then boyfriend, Bobby Lashley. I think they were saying they were married on air, but they weren't married yet.
Yeah, she was gone due to creative differences.
The old creative differences. I don't know what the and again, I didn't look this up. I should have, if there was any podcasts out there to talk about what the end result was going to be, or if they had an end game at all with this. But needless to say, it didn't go absolutely anywhere.
Yeah, this was fun, a fun segment to watch, certainly. But in the pantheon of wrestling weddings, this has to be near the bottom of the list.
The thing is, it wasn't over the top, crazy, stupid enough, and it wasn't serious enough. Like if you're going to say on one end, like the SummerSlam wedding of Savage and Elizabeth, that was serious, done serious, that was fine. And then you have a lot of the really goofy, crazy things that are over the top. And this was too much in the middle. I mean, the first half of it, as we said, very standard with the way they set everything up, who was there, how they were dressed, having Jagged Edge play, all that was fine. And then you get the Jillian Hall thing, which that was never really over. I don't think Hornswoggle was ever really over.
This era of WWE, I was not watching. I'll just say that. So like I've seen this segment now, obviously, and I saw clips of it after the fact, but the whole Hornswoggle being Vince's son thing, I know that was a pivot. I forget who it was supposed to be. Bruce Pritchard has talked about it on his podcast.
Was it Kim Kennedy?
I think that was one of the names that was floated, and for whatever reason they went with Hornswoggle, and like that was stupid to me. Hornswoggle can be a funny character. In this case, this segment has Vince written all over it, because it does remind me of the Uncle Elmer and Joyce wedding. Like there's some funny stuff that happens, but it's like very oddly serious at times, and like it's like you're wondering the whole time, who's clamoring to see this? Why are we watching it? Does anybody really care about these two people getting married? It's all very odd. And even like what the end game could have been, I don't know that there's anything that would have made me stand up and say, oh, wow, I wish we would have gotten to see that. Think
about it. You're not going to have a Teddy Long versus Kristal Marshall match.
Right. So if you turn on him and like get with some other guy, or try to take power for herself. But at that time, Vicky was the assistant. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, and if she gets, like, she says, I don't know, who it might be. She cheats on Teddy with some other guy. Well, that guy ain't going to have a match with Teddy Long.
Right.
So then you wind up having Kristal as a second against Guy A, with Guy A against Teddy Long as a second for Guy B.
Right.
Not that they haven't done that. Think about the Vince McMahon Donald Trump match at WrestleMania.
True.
Which wound up being Lashley versus Umaga with them seconds at ringside. I don't think they would necessarily be against doing that. I just don't know who you would get to do that and how that would help anybody.
And would it even be something that anybody wanted to see? Probably not. So yeah, I mean, this was one of the more random things that WWE did in this era. I really feel like this period of the company was, I don't want to use the word worst, but it was certainly one of its more awkward periods.
Awkward, directionless, maybe.
Yeah.
Would this still be considered the ruthless aggression era, or would it be past the ruthless aggression era?
I guess it would still be that era to a certain extent. I mean, after the ruthless aggression era, you would be heading straight into the PG era.
Yeah, and we're not PG yet.
Yeah,
so
not quite there.
I know that maybe this was some sort of limbo middle ground.
It might be in reality. We're really going to break it down, but certainly this was the Cena era.
Yes, definitely.
As far as like the headliners go. But yeah, I mean, I like Teddy Long. Kristal, I don't have a ton of memories about Kristal other than this segment. Teddy Long is a good character, and I thought that he always was fine as a GM. But yeah, this was I don't even know if they ever mentioned it after the fact.
I don't know. I think how did Kristen Marshall show up? Was she one of John Laurinaitis' lingerie models?
You might be right.
Because I don't know if you know this, like, because Jim Cornette, it said that John Laurinaitis used to just flip through like lingerie catalogs and would just go, "Oh, she's hot," and like find her agent.
Wow.
And that's how the Bellas became a thing. That's how the Bellas came in. And there were a few others. I think Kristal Marshall might have been. Again, I don't want to misspeak. I didn't look up everything I could about Kristal Marshall, but
yeah, I mean that's a stark contrast from the way JR would look for talent.
Yes, much a different way.
Yeah, but yeah, so this was certainly entertaining to watch overall. I would probably not give this segment a thumbs up if we're doing the Siskel and Ebert.
A thumb sideways leaning down.
Yeah, I mean just the insertion of Jillian's singing is just bad singing is not. It's one of those things that can change the channel, in my opinion. Like there's things that get a heel response from the crowd, and there's things that make the crowd say, "Okay, I don't want to watch this." And I would think that would be one of those things. Like, okay, I'm going to turn the channel, but who knows? So, any final thoughts, Leonard?
No, I think we've said all that can be said here. But once again, thank you, Ronnie, for the suggestion. And we'll be sure to be back, with another. Ronnie gives us great suggestions all the time. So that's why he gets named.
Absolutely. Check out our other videos, our stupid questions, our random match reviews, our full-length episodes. And we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. For Leonard, my name is Chad, and we will see you next time.